Hello. This one goes out to Connie. I did not want to keep doing this. God knows it's really hard. But we are on We Agnostics, chapter 4 in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. All right, here we go. Ah, agnostic. Person who holds the view that any ultimate reality, such as God, is unknown and probably unknowable from Merriam-Webster Library. And an atheist denies or disbelieves in the existence of a supreme being. So the agnostic says you can't prove there's a God, and an atheist says they just disbelieve in it. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, in the preceding chapters, you have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we have made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. The contrast, the black and white lines between what is alcoholism and what is not. If when you honestly want to, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control of the amount you take, you're probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. What is a spiritual experience? You'll know when you have one. To one who feels like he's an atheist or agnostic, such an experience seems impossible. But to continue as he is means disaster, especially if he's an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. To be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. Okay, to be doomed to an alcoholic death or live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. That's our two choices. But it isn't so difficult. About half our original fellowship were exactly that type. At first, some of us tried to avoid the issue, hoping against hope that we were not true alcoholics. But after a while, we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis of life or else. Or else I can go back to doing the same thing I've always been doing because my way works so well. I can do that or not. Perhaps it's going to be that way with you, but cheer up. Something like half of us thought we were atheists or agnostics. Our experience shows that you need not be disconcerted. Disconcerted means disturbed or confused. If a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. A code of morals is a set of rules of ethical conduct, of what you think is right and wrong. A philosophy of life is your set of core ideas that guide a person's thoughts, feelings, and actions. But we found out that such codes and philosophies did not save us no matter how much we tried. I could never be good enough. They say my best thinking got me into Alcoholics Anonymous. And I tried every way that there was. You don't have to try every way. Most of us have tried it for you. Uh, and philosophy is a love of wisdom. It doesn't matter what I know, how good I am, any of that crap don't matter. We could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. So I wish that I was good enough. I wish that all my thinking was right. I can force myself with all my might, but I cannot force myself to be not human. I cannot force myself to be non-alcoholic. It doesn't matter how hard I try, I cannot force myself to not be an alcoholic. Not only will that not work, it will backfire so hard, and it hurts. I just accept that I'm an alcoholic, follow this program to the best of my ability, reach out for help as often as I can force myself to do it. Will is the ability to control your thoughts and actions, strong determination. We have strong willpower. We just need to uh, channel that willpower into the right area. So instead of trying to channel it into making more money or getting everything that we think we want to be happy, we can channel it into trying to figure out what our purpose, destiny is. We can channel it into trying to figure out what God's will is. We could first of all channel it into learning how to work a real program, learning what this means, etc. Excuse me again. Once again, you cannot manipulate yourself through the program. You have to actually do it. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. That's our predicament. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously, but where and how were we to find this power? I never wanted, and I still don't want to ask anyone for help because in my past experiences, I learned that asking people for help means that they got power and control over me and they could hurt me. And that's why. And that's something that you just have to, I just had to, and have to override until I can heal enough to where it's not as much of a problem, but I still have a problem with someone else trying to exert authority over me because of my childhood. And obviously, people are people. Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. That's what the whole book is about. And the way it goes about it is it takes you through these set of steps that's going to connect us to a problem, to a power, and then that power and the steps help us to overcome alcoholism one day at a time. That means we've written a book which we believe to be spiritual as well as moral. So it's concerning our soul as well as values and principles. And it means, of course, that we're going to talk about God. Here, difficulty arises with agnostics. Many times we talk to a new man and watch his hope rise as we discuss his alcoholic problems and explain our fellowship, but his face falls when we speak of spiritual matters, especially when we mention God, for we have reopened a subject which our man thought he had neatly evaded or entirely ignored. Smartly avoided it. And it's no wonder considering how a lot of us have been hurt by people who claim to know God, or how people try to shove God down our throats. See, and then you just want to ignore that. We know how he feels. We have shared his honest doubt and prejudice, negative opinion. Some of us have been violently anti-religious, so hostile towards religion. To others, the word God brought up a particular idea of him with which someone had tried to impress them during childhood. So, during childhood. So, when someone tries to form your childhood conception of God for you, as we're going through the generations, and the further back you go, the meaner God is. Like, I heard someone anonymous in a meeting say once that they were told as a child that, when their brother died, that God took them. So sometimes we're told as children that, God takes people from us, and then that's going to make us feel resentful toward whatever God they tried to make us believe that it is. But now we're trying to make our own idea of God now. Our own, not we're not trying to build a God like Build a Bear. We're trying to form a personal idea of our, we have to throw out the old and start over, because we don't really know how many how many different prejudices I have against God until I start from scratch. Kind of like scientifically speaking. We start over. Perhaps we rejected this particular conception because it seemed inadequate. With that rejection, we imagined we had abandoned the God idea entirely. So we didn't like it when someone said, God will punish you, and so then we just completely rejected God, the whole God thought. Impress. An unfavorable opinion or feeling formed beforehand or without knowledge. We were purpose, the reason for which something is alone or created, or for which something exists. Okay, we were bothered with the thought that faith and dependence upon a power beyond ourselves was somewhat weak, even cowardly. We looked upon this world of warring individuals, warring theological systems, and inexplicable calamity with deep skepticism. We thought that trust and reliance on a power was weak and cowardly. I think that, and there was some time that I did think that people who believed in God, you know, were stupid and needed something to believe in to make their existence seem like it was meaningful. And now I don't think that way anymore. I believe in God now. I think the people who believe in God are stronger than the ones who don't. Okay, warring individuals, people fighting, warring theological systems, four branches, study of God, inexplicable calamity. There's a lot of stuff going on. Skepticism, theological systems, the covenant of works, the covenant of grace, the covenant of redemption. Okay, so you saved by works? Are you saved by grace? Or are you saved by redemption? Okay, maybe it's all of them. I don't know. Not knowing today is a good place to be. We looked askance at many individuals who claim to be godly sideways. We don't really trust them. How could a supreme being have anything to do with it all? And who could comprehend a supreme being anyhow? Yet in other moments we found ourselves thinking, when enchanted by a starlit night, who then made all this? There's a feeling of awe and wonder that was fleeting and soon lost. So then we're skeptical on one hand. We're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know about God, because look at everything that's going on in the world. If there was a God, it would be, wouldn't be like that. And, what a mess. And then some other times we would, be looking at the stars and say, wow, by the time the light reaches my eyes, that's gone, and this is, and the planets. And you think about that, and it's like, wow, there's how majestic. There has to be a God that made it all, So we're kind of bouncing back and forth between two different thoughts. Yes, we have agnostic temperament, have had these thoughts and experiences. Let us make haste to reassure you. We found that as soon as we're able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commence to get results. Even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which is God, I think that the closed mindedness of trying to say this is the way God has to be really limits my understanding of God. So I want to try to keep my mind open. So we're going to lay aside our preconceived ideas because we don't really know. So we have to tear everything out and start over. Okay. We start to get results when we are willing to believe. And if you don't have the willingness, pray for the willingness to be willing until it comes. We start getting results. That means you're going to notice something happen. Something will happen. Okay? Even though it's impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend, we cannot explain or understand God. I'm really leery of anyone that says they know everything there is to know about God because nobody does. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another conception of God. In fact, I would say not only don't take on someone else's idea of God, you don't need to, but don't even do it. Start over, and then you can redo your belief system. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach to effect a contact with him. My own idea, however limited and small and short, was enough to start to establish a connection with God. We've got to establish a connection of God. This is going to be the solution to, or whatever power you want to call it. This is a solution to your alcoholism. How do you establish a connection with God? That's what this book is about. Okay? We have to throw out our old ideas. Start with a clean slate. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, now here's some names of God, of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. If we're honestly trying to work an honest program, and we're really trying to be humble enough to really believe there might be something else out there besides ourselves, that maybe my understanding and ideas aren't really enough. Maybe it's never going to be enough. And that's okay. And not try to take on someone else's God. You can get your own connection with them, but you got to throw out the old get you God. That God didn't do it. That idea God didn't do it. Okay, we found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek him. The conditions of contact with God is not going to be difficult if we're honestly trying to seek him. To us, the realm of spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive. It's large, it's expansive, and it's accepting of all people. Never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. So it's never limited or unfriendly to someone who's seriously seeking it. It's open, we believe, to all men. Page 47. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God, your personal idea, your own interpretation. This applies too to other spiritual expressions which you find in this book. Do not let prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. Don't let your old ideas about, these meanings of words or what you think they mean stop you from asking and re-asking, looking and re-looking, trying to understand and re-understand again. Because if you read this once and you go back through this book again, you're going to understand it differently because your perception changes, all the time, especially if your brain is growing. What time is it? Go to meeting. Eek. All right. At the start, this was all we needed to begin spiritual growth, to commence spiritual growth, to affect our first conscious relation with God as we understood Him. This causes our first awareness of our connection with God. Now we're being consciously aware. We're consciously aware of God now. He's not an afterthought, a by thought, a maybe someday thought, and in the background somewhere thought. Now we're going to bring Him from subconscious to conscious and think about it intentionally. Afterward, we found ourselves accepting many things which then seemed entirely out of reach. That was growth, but if we wished to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So we used our own conception, however limited it was. I used to say, if you don't grow, you go. If I'm not growing in the program, I'm going back out. So I am willing to grow and learn and continue. Because I really, really do not want to go back out. Because I'm desperate. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe? Or am I even willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe or he's willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. Absolutely. We know there's a power greater than ourselves. People say you can make AA your higher power in the beginning, and you can make two people as, stronger than one person, and that's great. But you got to know when you're doing that you're working towards something else. You can't stay there. There has to be a growth, a spiritual growth. And that means I'm going to have to make my higher power stronger than other human beings because human beings are just like me. And I need something stronger than that. Something bigger than a group of other drunks. If I'm willing, I just have to be willing. Honestly, not fake willingness. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. Okay, on this basis, a wonderfully successful frame for our recovery can be built. This is our foundation. This was great news to us, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith which seemed difficult to believe. Yeah, you don't have to believe everything. All you gotta do is start. Start. Continue. Okay. When people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, I wish I had what that man has. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes. But I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him. So it's comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level. Yeah, if only I believed as someone else believed. I can't absolutely accept everything that everyone else believes. And you don't have to. Besides, it's the Articles of Faith. This is the Articles of Faith. 4 Articles of Faith. Bible is the inspired word of God. One God, Jesus, Son of God. Holy Spirit crucifixion. Second coming of Christ, fall of man. Repentance and faith, the Trinity, etc. These are articles of faith. I'm just looking up stuff, so I don't know everything. But you know what? I am willing to learn. That keeps me sober. Besides a seeming inability to accept much on faith, not that we didn't want to, we were unable to. We often found ourselves handicapped by obstinacy, sensitiveness, and unreasoning prejudice. Obstinate, stubbornly refusing to change one's course of action. If we hold on to what we believe and we're not willing to change the way that we think, that's obstinate. Sensitiveness, easily offended. Alcoholics and addicts are easily offended. Don't ask me why. It doesn't matter why. I mean, you can ask Google. I don't know. But we get our feelings hurt real easy. Lots of us have been hurt a lot. And, we even accidentally offend each other. So, we have to remember we're all human and nobody's perfect. Okay? We're all going to accidentally offend each other. And unreasoning prejudice means unfair, negative opinion based on assumptions. We assume something. Yeah. Many of us have been so touchy that even casual reference to spiritual things made us bristle with antagonism. Wow. We're so sensitive that anyone that even mentions anything about spiritual, we're going to get really mad at them. This sort of thinking had to be abandoned. Got to reject that and move past that through. Though some of us resisted, we found no great difficulty casting aside such feelings. Faced with alcoholic destruction, we soon became as open-minded on spiritual matters as we had tried to be on other questions. It's easy to open my mind when I'm desperate and I don't want to die. In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader. It finally beat us into a state of reasonableness. It inflicted enough pain that I tried to start being sensible. Sometimes this was a tedious process. It takes some of us longer than others. We hope no one else will be prejudiced for as long as some of us were. Cognitive bias, neural pathways, brain, nervous system, heart, liver, pancreas. I don't know whether that's alcoholic destruction. The reader may still ask himself why he should believe in a power greater than himself. We think there are good reasons. Let's have a look at some of them. We're going to start there. It's been 30 minutes and I got to go, and I'll try to do better at keeping up on this. So, God bless you all. Go to a meeting, call your sponsor.